Hello there, and welcome to another one of Arbiter's Garrysmod tutorials. Getting back into the swing of things, today we're looking at Holo emitters. Now, Holo emitters, according to the Garrysmod wiki, are wired holographic emitters, emits one or many dots that are positioned using 3D coordinates. It's like a 3D oscilloscope. Well, isn't that brilliant? So, you can find the Holo emitter in Wire, and it's under Render, which is all the way down here. Holo emitter. Now you do get some things to play with, some settings to play with, but they can all be changed after you've set them up. So I'm just going to set the fade time to 10 here, and keep last dot indefinitely. Well, that's just irrelevant. And before I spawn that, I'm going to spawn myself a little 2 by 1. I'm just going to flip that up there and put our Holo emitter in the middle. Okay, so let's look at the inputs first. I'll use Wire Advanced for that. You can see there we've got position vector and X, Y, and Z. I'll go through those first. They're both the same thing. Obviously, if you know, a vector is three separate values put into one. So position in a vector format is just X, Y, and Z, but it's only one input as opposed to three. Sorry. So they're all the same thing, and they just basically point to X, Y, and Z relative to the Holo emitter. Local is an on or off value, which specifies whether the Holo emitter is pointing to the X, Y, Z coordinates of the map, so GPS coordinates, or just relative to itself, so up, down, left, and right from the Holo emitter, or X, Y, and Z relative to the whole world. So normally we're going to have that switched on because we don't want whatever we're making to just appear in the middle of nowhere. We want it to actually appear in front of us in the Holo emitter. Colour, simple to understand. It's a vector again, so you have to specify that it's a vector type, but it just makes the colour of what you're trying to make it specifies the colour of the Holo emitter. Fade time is how long in seconds it takes for the previous lines to disappear. Now that'll become more obvious as we go along. Line beam, to be honest with you, I don't know what this one does, but it's line beam and ground beam basically do the same thing. They show the distance, they show the actual line between the Holo emitter and the end of the dot, and that'll become more obvious obviously as we do this as well. Size is the size of the laser. Clear clears everything, and active activates it. So first of all, let's make it active. For this, I'm going to use a input value because the thing about Holo emitters is they can get a bit laggy. So I'd like to be able to turn it on and off from my keyboard, and I'm going to use the Enter key on or off. So there we go. Wire active to there. Okay. So obviously, if I turn it on, nothing's going to happen because we haven't even set size or distance or anything like that. So the next thing we're going to do is set the size, and for this I'm going to use a constant value. I'm going to keep this constant value as 1, and I'm going to place it just next to the Holo emitter because that constant value is going to have a lot of other brothers and sisters on it very soon, so we're just going to keep it close. So size is 1. I'm going to set local to on as well because obviously we want it local. Fade time I'm going to set to 1 so that any Holo emitter we have disappears after 1 second. Ground beam I'm going to switch on, and line beam I'm going to switch off. So what I've just done there is I've made an on and off value for the Holo emitter, made the size 1, and turned on local and line beam and ground beam. So hopefully when I put in some X, Y, and Z coordinates, let's make some fake ones here, make everything 10. 10Q, 10. Then we should see our Holo emitter. Oh yeah, there it is. You can just see a tiny little white line there because it's set at 10. Obviously, that's not a very big value. Maybe if I make that a little bit bigger, say 100. And you can't see anything. Of course. I set up that constant value right, didn't I? Yep, number 100. Oh. There we go. I just had to reassign the X value. So if you see there's just a little white line shooting off from our Holo emitter. Now I just set that at the Z coordinate. Now the Z coordinate obviously specifies up and down. So if you're wondering why it's going vertical, it's because the Holo emitter at the minute is pointed sideways. Like if you imagine that's the top, obviously it's pointing upwards. So if I was to move this onto its back, get on your back, and there you go, it's pointing upwards in the sky. So when stuff is set to local, you have to bear in mind that the direction of the Holo emitter obviously makes things change. So that should hopefully make sense to you, and of course we can turn it off and on, and we can change the thickness of the beam. If I just set this to let's say 5, and then set the size to 5, it should hopefully, it's not very much bigger, but well, you can change the size of the beam with that value. Next thing I want to show you how to do is just to set up a little colour, and I'm going to do this by consolidating all these constant values because I'm sick of having that one there. That was a value of 100, so I'm just going to set up 3 values here. So that second one's going to be 100, 410. Actually, let's make it a bit shorter, let's make it 90. And our third value is going to be a vector. So I've got, say 3 values and they give you 4. It's going to be a vector, and it's going to be, let's make it red, so 2, 5, 5, 0, and 0. Again, using commas to separate each value. And there we go. So I can wire up the Z value to 90, and the colour to the third value, which is the vector. And if I turn it off and then on again, of course you're not doing anything. Why would you do anything? There, it's working now. All I had to do was reset the Z value. For some reason, turn it off and on again doesn't change unless you reset the Z value. So there we go, it's red now. So that's how you would change the colour. So from that, there's not a lot else you can do. Well, there is a lot else you can do. Obviously, it's a Holo emitter, it has a great deal of use, but these are the absolute basics. You set some X, Y, and Z coordinates, you turn it on, you give it a size and a direction, and there you go. Now, you may think that's a little bit plain, but there is actually a lot of fun you can have with this. For instance, I'm going to show you just a little program I wrote in Expression 2 to illustrate this. Now, this is way advanced stuff, so don't go crazy. Now, I've set up here. Oops, I've totally messed this up. I'm going to change a little few things here. It's called Heart Love, obviously, because I love this program. Outputs X, Y, and T. Trigger all, T equals counter, and why is that? So basically, this receives a value of counter, which is just going to be a little timer that I'm going to have set up, and T, it's going to read in the value of that timer, and if T is bigger than 180, it's going to subtract 360. So that means that we're just going to have a timer that's going to range between minus 180 and positive 180. And then from there, we've just got some, well, reasonably complex equations that work out 2 other outputs. And I'm not going to bother explaining it to you because you don't need to know. I'm just going to show you what you can do. So there's our expression. And I'm going to wire up a gate time. And it's going to be an accumulator. And I'm also going to have a comparison equal. And then I'm going to make another constant value, and this one's going to be of values, come on, two values, one of 10, and the other one of, oh no, that's it I think, just 10. And that should be, oh wait, no, 10 and 180. No, 360. Cursors. Right, there we go. Forgetting what I'm doing. So, what's going to happen is the accumulator is going to run, and it's going to accumulate values of 10 each time. So you can see there the accumulator is going up. And it's going to reset when the... Did I use an equal... Sorry guys, I'm not thinking. Right, so the constant value is the same. The gate I'm going to use is a comparison gate, and it's going to be greater or equal. Because accumulators don't run at exacts, and it's better did this way. So, A is going to run at values of 10. and it's going to reset when it gets higher than the greater than gate. And the greater than gate is going to say when the accumulator is greater than 360. So every time the accumulator gets higher than 360, it's going to reset. My apologies, of course, I forgot to wire up the counter, which of course is this accumulator here. And I'm just going to kind of wait until it resets, just so we can start from the beginning. I hope you like this one, guys. That'll do. So there we go, there's our accumulator. It's going a little bit slowly. Okay, so I'll just tell you guys what I've done. I've flipped the thing upside down because the XY coordinates were, well, the Holo emitter was basically on upside down, but there's no way to tell that until you actually make something. So it's upside down. I forgot to hook up the counter, which I've now fixed, and the fade time was being a little bit silly, and I've now fixed that. Now, the following video is going to lag quite a lot, so I'm basically going to stop talking and then speed up that section so you can basically see what I've done. The whole point is the expression feeds in a counter, and it does with it what it will. It does some equations, and it basically works out separate XY coordinates that it feeds to the Holo emitter, and the Holo emitter will make a pretty pan. So here it is. Just turn that off. There we go. So the Holo emitter is pretty laggy if it's doing really complex light emissions like that, where it has to work out a lot and project light in 3 dimensions at the same time. But you can see there's a lot of potential there with the Holo emitter. This has just been the basics. So you've learned how to switch it on and off, how to change the size of the beam, how to change X, Y and Z coordinates, how to make the beam look, and how to change the fade time. Those are the basics. I'll be back next time with hopefully something a bit more advanced, but I'm also learning as we go, so we'll see what we'll come up with next time. Anyway, I'll see you guys later. Bye.